My name's Andrew Wheeler. I'm a lawyer. I've started practice here in Sydney in the end of 1992. Worked in what I call traditional law firms throughout the 1990s. I then worked in the United States for a couple of years, and in 2001 I returned to Australia and joined PwC. PwC Legal, as it then was, it used to be a separate partnership practicing law. I have been a partner at PwC since 2004 and have led the legal team between 2007 until 2014, and still part of the legal services team at PwC. PwC in 2008 became a multidisciplinary partnership, and the legal business of PwC Legal was transferred to PwC. So in a structural sense, PwC since 2008 is one partnership. Today we have 550 partners, I believe, around 5,500 staff across Australia. PwC Australia is part of the global PwC network of firms. We are in 158 countries around the world. We practice regulated legal services in 86 of those jurisdictions, and I think globally we have 200 and something thousand people who work for PwC across the various offices. Legal services at PwC today, I wouldn't call us a full service legal provider. Over the years, I think we've worked out that there are certain legal services that align well with what PwC does and create synergies for our clients. So today, if I had to break them down into the particular categories, the legal services we focus on provide are in the areas of corporate advisory, regulatory, capital projects, infrastructure and real estate, employment law, and tax controversy, tax litigation. So those are, I suppose, our 5 key areas. Absent, some of the key areas that are absent there is a pure commercial litigation capability. Our view is that the breadth and depth of PwC's client base can make it quite difficult to operate a commercial litigation practice on any scale. So it's not part of our strategy here in Australia or I think indeed worldwide, to grow a significant commercial litigation capability. We think there are fantastic firms out there who do that very well already. So that's a summary today. In Australia, we have, out of those 550 partners, around 60 of those partners are legally qualified with practicing certificates and who can provide legal services. And there's another, I think, 100 and something lawyers with practicing certificates to provide legal services in Australia. We have a regulated legal practice in New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia and Queensland. South Australia does not allow multidisciplinary practices at the moment, so we don't have a regulated legal practice there.
The 100 plus lawyers, do they actually sit within a legal department, or is it more the case that these are lawyers who are aligned in different disciplines and they have legal expertise and can advise? How is it kind of structured?
It's a good question. Over the years, I think the lawyers practicing as lawyers become more dispersed amongst the organisation. So we do have a group called Core Legal within the firm, and in there would sit your corporate advisory lawyers and your regulatory lawyers. But the lawyers who do capital projects and infrastructure work hand in glove with non-lawyers in the firm who advise government on projects such as divestments or developments of infrastructure projects. Our employment lawyers sit in a group called People, We created this group a few years ago, and it basically consists of people or professionals with inside PwC who touch a client's workforce. So whether you are designing a remuneration system, whether you are advising on fringe benefits tax, whether you are doing an employee share plan, whether you are doing a workplace change project. So you've got everyone from psychologists through to actuaries, through to tax people, to the lawyers. They all sit together. Now, I'm an M&A lawyer by training and practice. I know exactly where to go to find my employment lawyers for an M&A deal, but we think there is a better synergy for the lawyers to be going to market with non-lawyers when they're looking at a client's workforce, because the lines between what is a legal issue and then what becomes a business issue, they're quite blurred. From an HR manager's perspective, they have a problem, they need it solved. There will be multiple touch points within the organisation to solve a problem like that. So over the years, I think we have become more dispersed throughout the organisation.
Yeah, go.
So you're operating as a team with the non-lawyers as well on projects?
Yes, correct. I would say of the work I've done over the years, the majority of the work I do for a client will have another part of PwC also working either on the same project I'm working on or very closely aligned to the client providing another service.
The large accounting firms went down this path some years ago to set up their own legal practices. Why is it different now, and how has it been as successful as it is?
I think I don't have the inside running on the other four firms, but for PwC, my view is this. I joined in 2001. PwC got into the business of law in, I think, 99, started up a separate partnership, and it was initially seeded with a couple of tax partners who were lawyers, but then the business grew by acquisition, and PwC effectively acquired the business and assets of Dunhill Madden Butler. My view on that, it was an acquisition which did not really provide synergies between what the mission of Dunhill's was versus the mission of what PwC was. And there, if you looked at the practice areas and what Dunhill's was known for, and at the time a heavy reliance on litigation, insurance litigation, there were minimal synergies with what PwC does and did. So I think the execution of the initial foray into law was flawed in that it was the wrong person or the wrong people that were brought in to grow a legal practice. What we've done over the last few years is grown organically, and we've really looked to say, well, what areas of the firm, and this is not legal, what areas of the firm PwC do we see growth in, and do we think it's relevant to have a legal service alongside those areas going to market? Is this something clients want? Is this something that we can work together? Because I think our view is in Australia, we have a fantastic number of very, very good lawyers. It's a very fragmented profession, and to differentiate yourself, you really have to have a point of difference. So I think trying to be all things to all people in the law is fraught with danger. I think we've picked a number of areas where we want to go hard at to provide a service, a premium service that is viewed alongside the other premium services that PwC provides in the market by our clients. So I think, in a nutshell, the manner in which we are executing today is very different to the manner in which PwC sought to execute on a legal strategy, back in the late 90s.
And thinking ahead, how do you see the future?
It's really interesting. I also think the opportunity for us at PwC to grow now was seeded by the significant changes that occurred to the legal profession in the decade beginning 2000. You saw, my view is there was a natural, what I call a natural order of things in the legal profession for much of the 90s and the 2000s, and firms in the client's view, and I think in the profession's view, were ranked and had reputations which were in a way unmovable, and being able to move practitioners from what were traditionally known as the top three firms, the Mallisons, the Freehills and the Allens, was difficult. I think that through international mergers and alliances that took place in the last decade and have been taking place, that has reordered or shaken up what was the traditional natural order of things, and has allowed firms like us to bring on talent which we otherwise might not have been able to. Moving forward in the future, and this sort of digresses into some of the points made by the prior speakers, where is it all going? Change, it will happen before our eyes, the change, I think. We won't see it happening, but it is happening. I look at some of the other practice areas in PwC. You know, if you think about our firm, people will often think of PwC as an accounting firm. I can tell you audit now represents less than 30% of revenue of the firm. If you actually come into PwC and you see what we do, it is very much a technology-focused firm. The acquisitions we've been doing, the growth we've had is all in the IT, the cyber area, IT consulting. It is all changing before our eyes. And if I look at the way technology is affecting some of the other practice areas in the firm, particularly areas that do, like, so if I look at audit, I look at tax, you have the ability, I think, for software to interface with clients' accounting systems, because pretty much everything's digitised now. And at the moment, it seems to me that programs, software programs which are that can provide a high-end data analytics tool with, I suppose, visual capability to try and unlock trends inside clients' businesses is where opportunities are being found by my colleagues in other lines of the business. So being able to mine the client's data, look for outliers and try and show why is that happening, what is it doing, and trying to bring things to the attention of clients that they might not have seen themselves. That's some of the thing that's going on out there. In our group, in legal, we're starting to use some of these tools. So, for example, earlier this year, we had a large due diligence exercise on a bit of M&A, and there was a significant amount of leases that needed to be reviewed. You know, in the past, you might have had a traditional Microsoft Word-based due diligence report setting out terms, conditions, material features of those leases. We still do that, but we're able to input a lot of the data into a data analytics tool to show the client through a visual form what was the weighted average expiry of all their leases. And they could start to see using the data tool, a geographic spread of different aspects of those leases. So it's early days, I think, but it's starting to get lawyers to become comfortable with moving away from what I call the traditional pieces of software that we've used, so the Microsoft suite of products, starting to get a bit more comfortable with coding. So we've got a coding school at PwC, and I've got a number of the lawyers to start getting involved in that and just getting comfortable with coding sets of data, and then inputting that into the data analytics tool and see what we can run in terms of outputs to say what can we identify and how can we present data differently and what can it tell us. It's early days, it's new, it's, you know, and when lawyers first do this, they're like, it gets their guard down because it's not what they're used to. I do find that the younger lawyers, the ones that are, the sooner they're out of uni, the easier it is to do. The older the lawyers, the more set in your ways, it's going to be harder.